we talk about niches, we're usually looking at, okay, what else can I add in to complement what I'm already doing? And the first one, it was like, okay, well, what do our people already need that we just don't have? Spinal decompression, easiest one for a chiropractor to add.
Welcome to ChiroX, where we talk business growth for, well, chiropractors. If you are a high-earning clinic owner aiming for the 7-figure mark, you know unlocking new growth streams is essential. But what if unlocking the next big leap for your practice is actually simpler than you think? Today, we are with Dr. Ryan Browning, who is the visionary behind a 7-figure practice called Browning Family Chiropractic Wellness. He's here to share his complete blueprint for accelerating growth in his business by using what he calls smart niches. We'll dive into how to identify these high-impact services, how to seamlessly integrate them for maximum profit, and understand how these core philosophies allowed him to still have record years during some of the most difficult times of his practice in 2020. Get ready to unlock your practice's full potential. Let's dive right in. How does focusing on wellness and a vitalistic approach help you reach a 7-figure practice, which you've obviously been able to do with your practice?
Yeah, so I think it helps in a lot of ways. So for one, you can be a pain-based only practice, right? People come in, they hurt, they feel better, they leave. Or they come in, you educate them, and they find reasons and value to stay. And so, in chiropractic, there's definitely a divide on these two things, but if you look at like the dental profession, so if you look at, kind of research the history of dentistry, this happened with them too. There was a doc came along. Dentists used to be like tooth pullers. That's basically all they did. This one guy comes along, he says, hey, how about we teach people how to keep their teeth, brushing and flossing, all that kind of stuff. And of course there was a divide because then the dentists are thinking, well, what are they going to need us for? They're going to put us out of business, right? And, as you can see now, obviously he won. His side won out. Dentist decided like, hey, okay, let's start teaching people actually how to take care of their teeth. And what did it do? I mean, it only elevated their profession to a new level, right? It's very respected, very, looked highly upon a profession to go become a dentist. And, but they followed that model. And so in chiropractic, fortunately, I feel like there's a movement towards the wellness side where it was not always there. The reason it was more pain-based, insurance companies boxed us into back pain. It didn't start out as pain-based either when it started, but it's also it's more fun to practice that way. Like when you see you're giving people their life back, they can realize they can they can play with their grandkids, they can lift weights again, they can do life again. Then they're interested in prevention, well-being, because when you start working on the nervous system, with the spinal adjustment, it's not just for pain, you're affecting their fight or flight system. So every other system branches off of that. So you end up giving them better health in general. One example of like why a wellness practice is COVID. Like perfect example. We just had the case study happen within the last 5 years. So COVID happens. I have lots of friends who are chiropractors, different cities, different states. The ones in the middle of the big cities, I mean, they got messed over. Shutdowns, you can't do anything, right? The ones that were in the rural areas, it's like COVID never happened. They didn't care. The ones like me, I'm in Kyle, Texas, a south suburb of Austin. We're in the middle. And so where I was at, or places like the suburbs where we're at, there was a tooth philosophy. So you have the chiropractor that was just like, hey, we're afraid, just come in to see us if it's going to prevent you from going to the ER, to keep you out of the hospital because they're getting clogged up too. Well, obviously those practices suffered and those businesses, someone went out of business. Ours, with our philosophy of like, no, we can help you to be healthy and to, have your body in a better place to fight off whatever happens to it. And so even though those first few months of COVID, our practice tanked. We saw like 50% patient volume and weren't sure what was going to happen from there, really. We kept plugging along and we just said, you know what, we're just going to educate and teach our people what benefit chiropractic can have for them. And even though some of our maintenance patients, wellness patients stayed inside and didn't come in, there were that many more people that knew like, hey, I need something. I want to do something for my body, something for my health. We saw that many more people like that, and we had a record year. again, in 2020 with the worst few months we had in forever. So if you're looking at like business wise, yeah, you got to teach people wellness and how to take care of themselves. Because really, like the best patients you have anyways, they know the most about their body. They know the most about their health. They want to do things proactively. And, that can become a different portion of your practice in and of itself.
I really like the dentist analogy. I guess I've never heard that analogy. That's really good. And it goes to say about like knowing who you're talking to, I think is a big part of what I feel like you're talking about there in terms of having a wellness approach. Because like generally speaking, if you're talking to somebody that actually cares about their general health and well-being, it's very different than somebody who's being treated for medical things that actually don't really care about their health and well-being, right? Like even when I used to practice as an OT, I used to see it every single day of the type of patient who more or less was just like, they were there because their doctor told them to be there, but they didn't actually care to be there, and they didn't actually care to get better for the most part, sadly.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds, but it was true, right? Versus like, I think a lot of what chiropractic is serving and the messages that's being delivered, and probably the people that you're seeing a lot of are people that understand the value of health and also have the value of health.
Yeah,
and they generally
sure.
want to be a healthier, more, vibrant human being, which is a big part of like attracting those people, or also people that you can stick around, which helps with retention, and which obviously is very important to business at the end of the day.
Yeah, that was part of what, once I had learned about chiropractic and I saw the different of the patient, it really attracted me to want to do this. Cause like, oh wow, these are people who actually care about, exactly what you just said. Like they actually want to be healthy. It was kind of eye-opening.
Which is shocking, right? Which it's like, I think that would probably shock a lot of people to think of like, that there are people in a hospital or a healthcare setting or whatever that actually, sadly but true, actually don't really care that much about their health, which is why they don't do anything about it and why they keep showing up there.
It's on the back burner, and then they end up paying more, and it's more of a headache later on once it catches up with them.
Totally.
For sure.
Let's dive a little bit more into your practice specifically, because I know this is something that you actually stepped into and took over that was already running practice. And then there's a big part of you finding certain niches to allow you to continue to grow that practice. I'd be curious as to like what your beliefs are around that and how that's helped you grow your practice.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're looking to add something to the practice, I mean, I always give it two tests. I mean, first and foremost, is it good for the patients? Like, if it doesn't pass that test, you shouldn't look anymore. Two is it good for your practice? I mean, it's got to pass both though, because you could bring in this cool something that you waste all your time on, and now you divert your attention from the chiropractic care, and your business just went to the ground, right? So you got to be mindful of both, I would say. And even I feel like for especially younger or newer practices, before chasing these like outside niches, there's niches within chiropractic that someone can already do with their DC license. For example, if you don't treat, you may have bought a practice and they don't do personal injury. Well, there you go. There's a niche you can become an expert in, and you can have kind of like a little side practice within your practice just by learning how to take care of those patients and become an expert in that. When I go to my school, Parker University, a few times a year, and just interact with the students there. It's always fun. It's kind of a little give back. But the question they ask all the time is like, well, what kind of practice do you have? And I know what they're expecting. They're expecting like, oh, I just see athletes, or, oh, I just do car accidents, or, oh, I just see the moms and little kids, right? Well, I think everybody needs it for one. So the longer you're in practice, I think you should become an expert in these different niche type of patients, because then it just strengthens you have a bigger tool bag, you have more patients you can attract, more referral sources, and you just become more of a value to different types of patients. So, when I graduated, I wouldn't wanted to adjust a lot of pregnant ladies or kids. Like I wasn't good at that. So, and now I see, more than most, or same with car accidents. I didn't know how to properly document that, and certain referrals, but yeah, now I'm expert at that. And so I would say, especially like a young chiropractor's listening, or if you're new in your practice, look at those things you can add, because you may need a little additional training, expertise, but you don't really have to go out and bring a whole system in, or a new piece of equipment. You can already do that with your hands. So that's first and foremost. Second, what I think you're getting at is, we talk about niches. We're usually looking at, okay, what else can I add in to complement what I'm already doing? And the first one, it was like, okay, well, what do our people already need that we just don't have? Spinal decompression, easiest one for a chiropractor to add. Because if you take x-rays, which hopefully you do, because you'll find some things you'll be surprised about, you're going to find stuff already of people who need spinal decompression. So if they have disc degeneration, they know, they come in with MRI reports of disc bulging, disc herniations. If they have radiating symptoms down the arms, down the legs, there's a good chance chiropractic and spinal decompression. Very simple to show them the x-ray and be like, point out the chiropractic reasons for their treatment and this disc portion right here for their spinal decompression, and that's what we're going to be doing for you today. So, it's probably the easiest niche to add in, is the decompression. And then, others, it's like once you start looking for something, you start seeing it. So what I mean by that, for several years, we were chiropractic only, and that's all we saw, right? And that's all we did. Then we started kind of diving into some other things and looking at like gut health, for example, nutritional. And I tell you, if you're open to nutritional stuff in your practice, there is everyone under the sun who would love to sell you their products and get you under their system. And because they know if they get a chiropractor, they have tons of patients. They're going to get their product, everyone. So you got to be careful too, right? And so for a lot of years, I was just had a defense mechanism. Like, no, I'm not doing any multi-level stuff. I'll just refer out to you if I think they need your stuff. But it's like people are only getting less healthy. They're not getting more healthy. After COVID, it's like you kind of realize there's even a higher stress on people than there was before, even though there already was a lot. And so, we found a gut health program we were very happy with. And when you start asking or you have them fill out a questionnaire and realize like, yeah, I bet you the other stuff we're doing, inflammation in the joints, the pains they're having are going to do better with this nutritional stuff and the chiropractic than they are just chiro alone. So, once you start opening, like looking for something, you will see it. Whereas, but you gotta make sure it makes sense for your practice. Make sure you're doing, your chiropractic patients, you've already done a great job for them, right? They already trust you. They love you. In some instances, you've changed their lives. And that's really important to maintain. And so you don't want to cheapen that, right? Like just to make a quick buck on some product. It is not worth it. You want to bring in the best thing, because when they experience another service or another treatment from you, you want them to have that same high level of, oh, that was so amazing. Like, I wouldn't trust anybody else. So that's how I view it. Like I'm I take that kind of personal. I'm not going to just refer or recommend to recommend, because your name's on the line when you recommend. Just like if you send them to a different specialist, well, they're going to trust you because you were the ones that sent them. So same thing when you recommend other services to people. As long as you have the patient's best interest in mind, I think you're in a good position.
So just so me and the listeners fully understanding the message here, I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that making sure that obviously the chiropractic care is the basis and foundation of everything you're doing, and then having essentially like adjacent potentially niches or services or products even that you can offer to continue to add value, just as long as you know that it's actually helping them and it's not just like some one-off to make a buck. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you could think of it like a triangle. And that base of the pyramid is the chiropractic. Like that's where most of your patients come from anyways. You have DC in behind your name. They know you're a chiropractor. That's, you can see a high volume of chiropractic patients. New patients are going to come in pretty easily for that. And then as you move up the triangle, those are like the higher, maybe higher valued, higher priced items, right? So they move into some of those programs after they're a chiropractic patient. And let's say someone comes in because they hear you have this cool program that's a kind of a higher dollar item. Well, then you move them down the pyramid too to being a chiropractic patient because, well, if they came in for these issues. I bet you they have some joint problems or spinal issues too. And you can kind of mix and match. As far as like marketing or getting new patients in, you're going to get the most in chiropractic. You're going to spend more for the, those niche patients. So I would caution. I think there's a temptation for doctors to be like, oh, this one program is very high dollar. Let's just do that and just forget all the busy work and just have a handful of those every month and be good, right? Sure, that sounds nice, but it's going to be a lot harder getting those ones in the door. Whereas, guess what? Some of your, for example, neuropathy, we have an amazing program reversing neuropathy symptoms. The chiropractic patient that comes in that has those symptoms, we talk to them about it, and they're going to be way more likely once they see, hey, this place is legit. They do a great job. They understand what's going on. Hey, let's see if you need this, and if so, great. They can enroll into that program too. Yeah, so that's how we go about it.
I like it. Yeah, it's basically like getting them in the ecosystem, because you answered the question that I was actually going to ask is how do you convey that message? Because like you can offer a lot of things like you're mentioning from the products and the services and the specialties and things of that nature, but then it does on some level dilute your message if you're trying to talk about the 17 things that you can do, right? So my assumption is that you still lead with the fact of like, we'll say pain, because that's the most common example, is like helping somebody solve their pain through chiropractic care. And then once they're in your ecosystem, it's like, by the way, here's some other things that can help you. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So, if they come in for, raging sciatica down their leg, and they're going to be a chiropractic patient, maybe spinal decompression, and, they're, you're gonna start with what they came to you for, right?
Totally.
But let's say you can already see from, they would benefit from some other services. Well, you could just ask permission, like, hey, I see this is going on too. Would you like me to address this for you? Instead of just the next day when they come for their treatment plan results, like you just said, here's all these things. Well, let's start with solving why you came to me, but would you like help with this as well? And sometimes they'll say, that would be awesome because I've already tried A, B, and C and it didn't work. Or they may be like, no, just help me with this for now. And then they see you help them do a great job. They trust you. And then they'll be like, you know what, let's address this now that I've gotten some of that taken care of, or now I have the headspace for it, or now I've already paid for a bit of it. Let's go ahead and move forward with this. And great. That's okay too.
It sounds like a classic message that, I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Kennedy at all, but he's a very popular marketer. But essentially, I don't know if he was the one that said it, but I've definitely heard him say it. He said, give people what they want before you get them what they need, essentially. And this is exactly what I feel like we're talking about, is like somebody wants to get out of pain or remove their sciatic or their leg numbness or whatever it is. Yes, that's getting them what they want, but then you can get them what they need eventually once you have them like in your world and can continue to serve them.
Yeah, I kind of think I've heard that saying before, and I like when I have doctors come into my office, I almost tell them a little bit in a different way. I'm like, look, you're not selling them anything. You're just telling them what they need. And so I actually train my doctors. I'm like, look, they may be wanting to get out of pain in 3 adjustments. When you see all these things on the x-rays, probably not happening. So you gotta tell them what they need. If they accept it or not, that's on them, right? And they're gonna accept what they want anyways. But my job is not to try and appease you and make you all happy when I go over your results and what you're hoping I'll tell you it is. I'm just straight shooting you like, here's what it is that you need. And if you accept it, cool. But if not, it's not gonna change my life either. It's gonna help yours if you do. So it's a little twist on that, but I have heard that before. But I don't see it. I think it depends. If you see, when I was an associate and we were, we were kind of rated on our like conversion percentage of like how many new patients signed up and prepaid their packages, all that type of stuff. Anyways, so it was I felt that pressure as an employee, and I didn't like that because I felt like it took me out of the doctor mode. It put me into like, oh, my stats are being, rated by my boss, basically, right? So I get that, and I get the need for that. So when I got to step into my own practice, like, you know what, I'm just, here's what it is. If you don't like me for it, I'm sorry, but I think when you come from that place of just tell it, don't sell it, it feels better from the doctor anyways, because like, if you walk out the door and don't do anything in our office, okay, like we're fine, but you're still going to be in a bad spot. And sometimes people don't complete everything. Okay, we'll give them what they want, right? They'll come back when they saw you did a good job. But I think, you got to have that. Younger doctors struggle with this early on, as just that doctor authority of like, hey, I've had all these years of training. Just tell them what they need, and they'll understand.
Tell it, don't sell it. I think I'm going to steal that. That's clever. I think that's really refreshing. I think what I love about that is this is something I think about a lot as well, is that don't necessarily sell like the product or the service, but sell the diagnostic, right? That's essentially what you're doing, is like when you're able to bring in a patient and be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. These are the issues. This is probably what's causing it. This might be able to solve this problem. It's up to you, right? You're basically you're just diagnosing them at the end of the day. And then at the end of the day, it's up to them if they want to like accept that diagnosis and get the cure or the solution or the ability to solve that problem, which I like so much more than like, you need this because this is going to solve your problem. It's like, no, like I know the problem. It's up to you, right? Like the diagnosis.
Yeah. And, I've always thought it's more fun to, like I was saying earlier, like it's more rewarding personally to, help someone in their life than it is like, oh, their back pain's gone, right? So like when you find those quality of life things, so that can kind of give you a little extra layer of, hey, yes, you need this, but really it's so you can do that. And that's how you frame it for them. So they realize like, oh, okay, I got to come in here 20 times and do this and do that. It's really not like for the fun of it. It's so because you want to be back to running like you want to, or you want to be, you want your life back. And so when they see that as like, that's the reward for them. Yes, it's better health, but that's what they get out of it. Cool. I mean, they're happy to do it a lot more. You
ever heard the expression, sell the destination, not the flight?
I like that. I haven't heard that, no, but
yeah,
that's good.
It's like when it's like you're selling them the trip to Bali. You're not selling them the fact that they have to go to the airport 2 hours early and they got to wait and stand in line. And then you're for sure going to sit next to a baby. And there's definitely going to be somebody coughing on the plane. It's like, you're not selling any of that. You're just like, you want to go to Bali? Cool. Like I can get you there.
That's funny. I had a patient this morning telling me about her trip to Bali, and how long that flight was.
So let's jump into a little bit about some of the challenges that I know you faced. So you had a little bit of a hang up with dealing with insurance and some insurance changes that you dealt with. I'm curious as to what were those challenges that you ran into, and then ultimately, like, how did that make you guys stronger as a practice?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, those challenges are never ending. I mean, there's always little things, but so I graduated chiro school, associated other practices for about 4.5 years. And then, here was like mountains of debt and 3 little kids and barely making enough to get by. And people call me doctor at work. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I'm barely paying my bills. So it was time I got to figure something out, right? And so I found this practice in Kyle, and it was a little practice, but seemed like it had a good following. And I had been in like a rehab model practice, so they were getting more services per visit, and the insurance paid it. And this is up in Dallas-Fort Worth area. And, I had this killer business plan. It basically tricked a bank to give me a loan because no one else would. But this one bank did. I mean, they loved the business plan. To me, it sounded great too, because I'm like, look, I'm going to take this model and fit it right onto this little practice, and every visit's going to make more automatically. And then if we add our marketing, get a little more extra patients, this thing's going to be like busting pretty soon, right? And I'll be able to pay back my loan and all that stuff, get out of debt. So that's how I saw it going. And I was able to get the loan. Banks don't really like giving chiropractors loans, by the way, especially if you don't have any money. I had to have a cosigner on that loan. And so we get down here and I start being able to dig through everything. And I come to the realization that, if I put that model into this practice, the insurance is different here in Central Texas than it was in where I was at in South Lake, kind of bougie area there. And if I do that here, all these patients that are already coming in, they're going to be paying like twice or 3 times as much for what they're already doing. For the new guy, the new doctor, I figured that's probably not going to go well for me, and I don't think I'd keep a ton of those patients. So that was a huge, talk about having to find a way to pivot, because here I had bought the practice and then realized that wasn't going to actually work. So that's where I had to start, digging in on, well, what are other ways I could grow? And I can boil those down to like 3 big things. One was, we talked about niches that a chiropractor can add in already. Personal injury. This practice didn't do any, and I saw a huge opportunity in it. And I hired a consultant to train me because I wanted to actually be good at it and not just see the patients I got in car accidents. And so I went through multiple trainings, became expert at that. And now, we see a lot of them. It's a good part of our practice. 2 was, back in the day, no one was online where I was at. No Facebook marketing. No one got Google reviews. No one did anything. Blog posts. That stuff was easy. So I had a huge first mover advantage. I would add blog posts in, keyword it. I'd be ranking on stuff 2 days later. English, Spanish. It was that easy way back when. Now everybody does it. It's not easy. It's not the same, but whatever. It helped me out for several years to kind of get a leg up. And then 3, I did, I was new to running a business, running a practice. I did hire a coach because I felt like there's going to be blind spots. I've never hired and fired, didn't manage the staff, statistics. What do those tell you? What do they mean? There's a whole lot of aspects of, business that you do not learn in chiropractic school. You don't learn any of it. You actually get like 2 classes and you think, leaving, like, all right, I know I need to get in it. You're like, that didn't teach me anything. So those are like the 3 big things. Those first several years, I helped get my growth going a lot. And big believer in coaching and having someone help. But that was the initial insurance. That's a huge one it's probably not the smartest idea to show up having bought the practice and then realize like, oh, that's not going to work. But then along the way, since we're established, there's still going to be insurance challenges. And, I don't really care. It's like when I create a patient's treatment plan, I don't look at their insurance anyways. I could care less. Like if there's a $15 copay or if they're full cash, I actually don't want to know. And I train my doctors that way too. Like you shouldn't really know, in my opinion, the doctor, you don't need to know what they're paying out of their pocket for this because you need to tell them what they need, not what they want to hear, right? And so if they're 0 coverage, you might be tempted to tell them something easier to hear. Or converse way, it's like if they have great coverage, you may be tempted to tell them more. Well, neither one is ethical, right? And so my doctors none of them know what their coverage is. My billing insurance specialists, they know. And the front desk knows what to collect when they come in, right? So there's always going to be insurance-based challenges, but, people got to be deconditioned from getting just what their insurance covers anyways. Because if you just rely on your health insurance, you are not going to be a healthy person. You're going to get whatever they cover and not get what they don't. And that doesn't mean necessarily what your body needs.
I was once told, don't sell out of your own pocketbook. In other words, it's like, don't make the assumption of like what somebody thinks is or is not expensive, because we do that so often, right? And then that changes the way we might talk or sell or provide a service to somebody because we have assumptions around what they can or can't afford or what they should or shouldn't pay when you have no idea. And so never sell your own pocketbook.
Yeah. It's easy to judge, and it's not our place to decide that. They're the ones that should decide their finances. And we had a lady recently, she needed a lot, it was going to be a bigger ticket in many ways. And her son heard about it and he's like, you know what? I'll be right back. He went to the bank and got what his mom needed. And, so if there's value in someone's going to change someone's life, it's there. So
And there's no arguing. I mean, anyone listening to this show already knows this. I don't think there's anything more important than your health at the end of the day. So I'm curious as to, you mentioned those three things. You mentioned personal injury, you mentioned digital marketing, and then you also mentioned the coaching thing. I'd be curious as to, one, how if someone's listening to this and they're thinking like, oh man, like personal injury is something I'd really like to lean into or to get more patients from, because I probably think there's a lot of doctors that probably think that. What advice would you give them to be able to do what you did? Because like, yes, you got the training, which is obviously helpful, but that also doesn't mean you're going to get those patients. Like, how did you get those patients?
Yeah. At the time I was kind of lucky in that there wasn't a ton of people doing it where I'm at, especially back then. Now there is, but back then there wasn't. And so, I wanted, whenever I got a case, let's say I had an attorney attached to it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. If they had an attorney on it, when that went back to them, I wanted them to see that this place knows exactly what they're doing. Like, they know how to take care of the patient. They know how to take care of the case. We reach out when we need to. So it started just like that. Like, hey, I want my quality to shine through. And then they're going to know, oh, we got a guy there when we get a case that can take care of stuff. When I get something from an attorney I hadn't worked with before, for years, I would just give a phone call and be like, hey, here's usually how we do stuff. Is that okay? Is there anything you need a little different? And just help them realize, like, yeah, okay, this place knows what they're doing, because sometimes they don't know. And that really kind of snowballed it in the first several years. So if you don't know that as well, they can tell, But yeah, simple phone call. I mean, there's all those things about go have lunch with all these attorneys. I've never really done a lot of that. It's just, they don't want to have lunch with me either. They want to be about their business, taking care of stuff. They want referrals. We refer when there's the opportunity.
That's valid. I guess, yeah, the lunch probably can feel a little forced at times.
Yeah, like you both want the same thing. You want referrals, right? So send a referral. If they do a good job, cool. You got a good one, right?
Yeah. I remember when I used to practice as an OT, a big part of what I used to do in my practice was like just following up with like same thing, having a phone call. This is what's going on with this patient or this case, or just like letting the doctor know, or just like being communicative. A little bit can go a long ways with a simple follow-up, I guess.
Yeah, no one to refer. I mean, your staff is a big part of it. Once you get enough personal injury going, you need to have staff dedicated to the follow-up and making sure everything's buttoned up nicely, which, our team does a great job of.
You mentioned the digital marketing thing in terms of in the earlier days, which I do know, there's still, don't get me wrong, obviously as somebody who does a lot of this, I think there's still a lot of value in the things that you mentioned in terms of Google reviews and the Facebook ads and blog posts and keywords, and those things are still super powerful. I'm curious though for you as somebody that's obviously probably still looking for like other opportunities or things to pounce on or jump on, what are maybe some things you're kind of like scoping out, or some opportunities that you might see? I have some thoughts on this as well, but I'd be curious what you think.
Yeah. Back in the day, I learned how to do the Facebook ads. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to pay someone every month. At a certain point, you're really squeezing out your overhead, and it's really important because everything that goes out the door needs to produce something, right? And so I was like, you know what? I can learn how to do these. And I built some awesome looking ads. They looked great. And I never saw a patient come in from them, right? So that's what taught me is like, okay, hire the expertise that you don't have, right? And I've done that for several years. So I think it does help me that I do have some back knowledge of, what should happen. But I think more importantly is just tracking your results from who you're hiring to do the marketing. So your ROI, whether it's the Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever you're doing, you just need to know, okay, what is the result? Because if you don't know, you don't know. So you can't, inspect it. If you don't know what to expect if you don't inspect it, basically.
I'd say that's the number one thing that I hear from doctors or clinics that end up hiring any sort of marketing service is like making sure there is some clarity behind the data. Because I know so many people that have gotten, for lack of a better word, burned because they don't know and they don't have any idea.
That happened too a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it always sounds good, but if you can't see the actual numbers behind it, it makes it much more challenging. So, Yeah. Any other like digital marketing related things, or even like local marketing things that you've tapped into or tried?
Yeah, I mean, again, going to like the being new, community marketing. So, when I got to the practice and, I had extra time and I didn't have a lot of extra funds, right? So when your time's not worth a whole lot, you gotta use it, right? And so, and we're kind of a smaller community, so especially back then. So if it was on that Chamber of Commerce calendar, I tried to make it on my calendar as much as possible. And who did I meet? Well, I met all the people that like to network. I met all the people that know everybody. I met all the people that everyone asks people stuff for, all the realtors, the salespeople, the government people, and personally, I actually do enjoy that. But I don't really do it much anymore because I just don't have the time. But when I did have the time, it's fun because, like, especially if you live in the community you're serving, your kids go to the school, you attend church in the same town, all the other business owners this way, and it kind of makes the community more important for yourself personally, for your family, and able to make you want to give back a little extra too. So I would say, anyone who's not, especially if you're new or younger or smaller practice and you've got some time, sure, do some digital stuff, or hire someone for it, but go just meet people. And I have had plenty of people in town who have referred family members. They've referred people for years now that have never stepped foot in my practice themselves, So I think that's a good, just boots on the ground approach. It doesn't cost you any money. It does cost some time, but you can create a lot of relationships that way. And that would be my first. And then, one other one along the same lines is like, go find synergistic businesses, people that be good referral partners. So let's say a massage place or an acupuncture, physical therapist. Maybe there's a nutrition weight loss place that, you could work together with. My first, I guess going back to niches, the first niche I tried to bring in when I was brand new, and I was maybe 6 months in the practice, I'm like, why didn't these people have massage therapy? That'd be so great. And so I hired a massage therapist, had this one room, and then I had a different headache every day from it. So I fired that one, I hired another one, and I had a different headache every day. I said, forget this. Never having massage therapy in the office again. Now I don't have space for it anyways, but then I just started asking patients, where do you go for massage? And a lot of them would tell me the same place. So for a few years, I referred to this place I'd always heard good things about. I never had met the owner until, finally we met, and, we referred back and forth a lot and with other massage therapy therapists since then. But, that's a good way too, is just find that like people already need certain other services that are coming to you. Well, if you have a good resource for them, you want to be the resource, and then it'll come back to you.
Love it, man. Yeah, I will say the local networking stuff is by far the most common advice that I give to newer practices. And then eventually, as you establish those relationships and those connections and start getting patients in the door, and you have what you said is like less time, then you're talking about trading money, right? Because you pay in two ways at the end of the day. Always, you pay in your time or you pay with money to get the result that you need. And so when you have a lot of time, like give it as much as you can to as many people in your local area and massage therapists and communities and PTs and all the other things. And then when you're out of time, it's like, now we need to look at other ways to continue to drive growth in the business. But let's get a little bit into team building. So this is, I think, one of the most common challenges, and the thing I see so often is hiring and bringing on good talent, attracting good talent, retaining good talent, having A players within a business. How do you attract good talent? How do you keep them around? How do you create a culture? And ultimately, how do you do this for a business that wants to grow and thrive?
Number one challenge for a lot of practice owners, that's for sure. And a lot of my friends over the years, my brother's a dentist too, so I've heard him multiple times, like firing his whole staff.
The analogy. Okay, that's
there you go. They're all hunchback too. They all need chiros. But I've been very fortunate. I'll say, I have a employee who's been with me for 10 years now. I have employee who's been with me for 9 years. I had one till recently, been with me for 6 years. And I don't think it's by accident. I mean, I feel like I'm blessed and lucky in some ways, but like you got to create that in some ways. And my number one thing is everyone is the leader of their position. So I don't want to micromanage you or anybody, because I hate that, and I don't want that being done to me either. So if you're the type of person who needs to be micromanaged, you're not going to last here very long. Like, or we're going to try to not hire you in the first place, but you'll just kind of be weeded out pretty quick. But everyone needs to see themselves as the leader, whether they're at the front desk, whether they're one of the other doctors in the therapy room and billing, so that when situations come up, everyone doesn't have to run to me for everything. Well, they have trust. They've been trained. They can find solutions and they can handle it, right? And if it doesn't work out or they weren't sure or maybe they don't know, they'll come talk to me about it. But I feel like, everyone should see themselves as like, I'm the captain of my spot, right? That's a big one. Another one is like just the environment you create. So I've always been one who I tell my staff many times over the years, I want this to be a place where I want to be. So I want it to be a place where you want to be. I feel like a lot of people wake up every morning and they're probably like, crap, I got to go back into work today. And every day. And I don't feel like I would be a good one of those people. That just wouldn't work well for me. So I've always tried to make it like, okay, this is a place I want to be. I'm not super anal on certain rules and restrictions with my team. They get a little leeway because you want it to be a place you want to be at, not just for 6 months either. And then you're retraining someone and going through the same mistakes. So just trying to create that environment.
How do you find these people though? Like, I agree. I think the culture piece of it's really important. I was once told that culture is the same thing as culture on the inside of a business is the same thing branding is on the outside of a business. Yeah. It's essentially like how we do things here. Mm-hmm. And I agree. I think that's like super important is like not having the micromanaging, hiring the right people, but like, how do you find them? Like, do you search them? Do they seek you out? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you get them?
Yeah. I mean, it can be both. Sometimes someone comes to you when you're not hiring and you're just impressed with them. And it's like, hey, I think you'd be a great fit, but, when we have a need, do you mind if I reach back out? Actually, that's how I got my 10-year employee right now. I had just hired a few weeks before she applied. And then, I didn't hire well. So once that firing happened, I'd reached back out and, just a perfect fit. I had another guy who was great for me for quite a while. He had shown up after we had hired, and I did the same thing. Like, hey, if the need comes, and sure enough, it worked out. There's no foolproof way. I call it 1 out of 2. About half the time I hire right, and then you replace, and then you got it right actually. And sometimes you don't know through a couple interviews. Now one of my staff members is involved in our interview process. So it's like, hey, if we screw up, it was your fault too, not just mine. You can't just blame me. But we have a pretty good feel, once people have been around long enough, you try and know, like, will they fit in? Will they want to hang out with us? And if you don't want to be around them all day, or you think you're just going to be annoyed by them pretty quick, probably don't matter how qualified they are, right? So you can train any skill, or you can train people, but like their personality, they're built in, right?
Totally. Always be hiring, I feel like, is the sentiment there. I was once told that. Or always be recruiting, I guess, whatever you want to say. Can we get in a few misconceptions? So I think the assumption for most doctors or practices probably, or anyone trying to grow a 7-figure practice, is that it should be hard and challenging and painful. And maybe that's true. But let's assume that assumption isn't true. What are maybe some common misconceptions about growing a practice, and what are ways that somebody could maybe make it simpler?
It is hard, but if you meet someone that it wasn't, I'd like an introduction, but I'm sure some do it easier than I have, but a few things is you got to get systems in place, because if you're trying to recreate the situation every time, it's exhausting, right? And so one example, I was taught early on, one basic system is called AMS. It's Advanced Multiple Schedule. So for example, when someone comes in, they get their treatment plan, we just schedule them all the way out for that. And for years, I didn't do that. And what you'll find is you grow your retention with that because they're already scheduled on, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and they finish a treatment plan at a higher percentage. When we decided to start doing that, it was like, are people really going to schedule out like 16 times or 20 times? And then they did. And we're like, okay. Now probably 95% of our treatment plans just schedule the whole thing on their second day in. They pick their days and times. It's usually the same days and same times. And you up your retention because now they don't have to decide mentally every single time when they get to the front desk, how about Thursday do you got 4:30 or do you have 5:15? It's already built in. It's already in their calendar above their nail appointment or above their other doctor's appointment or, in front of other stuff they're going to fill into their schedule. So, finding systems like that will work and just repeat, right? So that's one of them. I would say, when you're trying to really be in growth mode, like find 1 to 2 areas to focus on at a time. You can't, at least I couldn't build everything at once. You got to fix one area and then move on to something else.
For the AMS, can we linger on that for a second? Do you find that there's a cadence that works better that has a higher retention than another? Because I'm thinking I would assume every couple weeks would probably have a better retention than maybe once a month, because once a month is kind of it drags on a little bit. I'm just curious if you've noticed anything like that.
Yeah, if you're talking about maintenance care, usually about twice a month.
Okay.
Is what we do. And, some people won't fall into that, but here's what would happen. Probably about 5 years ago. And in school, you're kind of taught once a month, and it's just thrown out there. I don't even know why. It's just, but what we would find is all these once a month people that are supposed to be quote unquote wellness care or maintenance, they're already good. They're just getting tuned up. They'd be like, man, this last week or two, I've been struggling. I've been looking forward to getting my adjustment. Why don't we just see him a little sooner? And so we just had to make that click in our own brain. Okay, let's go to twice a month. And magically, most of those visits started being yeah, doing pretty good. Okay, cool. Let's keep doing that. So that was more of a true wellness and maintenance care than it was the monthly. So yeah, I do find twice a month for most people. Occasionally we'll get someone, they're like, you know what, I just want to come in every week. Usually someone's elderly. They're like, hey, I want every week. I just feel better that way. Okay. You're not going to overdose on this. So sure. And some will be, a little more resistant, no, I want to come a little less. But yeah, I'd say in general about that twice a month works really good.
Yeah, because I was thinking about my own behaviors and habits is generally speaking, when I have a monthly thing, whether it's a dinner with the guys or whatever it is, it's almost it's just long enough out where it's when it finally comes, it's let's just delay it. Versus a couple weeks is oh yeah, let's do this.
Well, too, on the, what we started noticing was we started asking our own office, well, how often do we get adjusted? Right? I'm 44 now. I get adjusted every week and keeps me doing great most of the time, right? And my staff, they're all yeah, once a week. And some of my staff are oh, I want twice a week. I'm okay, and you're afraid to tell someone twice a month? Yeah. But you want it twice a week, right? And so, once you realize well, wait, what do I do? Why don't I tell people that? It's okay. They can say no, but tell them what you do. It's fine.
Yeah. This is a kind of a one-off question, but in regards to balancing marketing, in regards to some of the stuff that you do in your own clinic, especially as a busy business owner, as the listener of the show is, and also potentially working with other agencies that do the marketing, how do you balance that? What do you think is a good ratio? Do you think all things should be partly in, partly out house? How do you look at that?
Yeah. I think it's a mix. So, as I said, to save money, I did more of myself back in the day. Now, when we're talking on a clinic running on full cylinders, it's a mix. And ads I think should be farmed out because they're gonna get way better ROI, and you just got to track that, right? Like we already said. Certain things you get more touch if you do it yourself, like social media content. If I'm paying some agency that's doing our ads and they're oh, you get 2 Facebook posts a week, no one's gonna care if oh, here's 3 things that cause headaches. who cares? Like no one will click on that or care at all. So we try and put like personal stuff of like, hey, it was so-and-so's birthday today, or hey, here's someone getting on the decompression table. Something that's like personal that like shows people a little more who you are or who your team is. We get comments all the time like, oh, that's so cool that y'all go do stuff together. Or back on the culture thing, we post that stuff on social media. We had a birthday lunch today. We'll post that for people to see. Our year-end stuff, we've done things like I've taken my team to Dallas Cowboys game, or we've done the Spurs box, horseback riding, that kind of stuff. And people are, it's kind of interesting. Like they like to see that we like each other, right? Not that just they're coming here for their treatment, but that we, actually do stuff like that. So to me, that's more fun, more interactive social media than, here's your nerve pain going on. I mean, sure for the ads, but for like the everyday interaction stuff, it's got to be fun.
I couldn't agree more. And this is, I literally just had this exact same conversation in the episode before this one. It actually hasn't come out yet, but it will. And he was talking about another doctor. He's in Boulder. Awesome guy, Travis. Shout out to him. But he was saying how eventually, from a social media standpoint, generally speaking, all roads lead towards in-house, because of exactly what you just said. And I was just having this conversation with my fiance the other day, is that social media is social by nature, which in turn means that they want to see the everydays, the behind the scenes, the what's going in a clinic.
The corporate feel.
Right. Which is what you see of, sadly, a lot, because I do a lot of audits for a lot of businesses. And I will tell you 95% of them are posting Canva stock images that nobody cares about, right? That's different than ads though. Like that's a different conversation. If we're talking like ads or Google or keywords or SEO, that's a different conversation. But when we're talking like social media, people want to know the business, the person, the community, the brand, the patients, like who's the behind the scenes.
Yeah. And, I've worked with several different marketing agencies over the years, and you just got to find like that fit, like who's going to fit you right. So that's important, I think. But
I think a way an agency could get around this, but you're not really seeing it very often, is if they took time to come out to the clinic and hung out with you for a day, maybe captured some content and got some testimonials and like did an interview of you and like something of that nature. But to just like do it digitally online from their Canva board.
It feels like sterile.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah.
And people know.
Totally with you.
People know what's happening.
Yeah. I've posted that kind of stuff before too. I was like, and you can tell, no one cares.
Nope.
I mean, I don't like that stuff on social media either. So.
Last question. So for doctors who are ready to grow their practice, what's one specific thing that they should do this week to start growing and hopefully get to that 7 figures and beyond?
Man, I got a few things on that one.
Okay.
I mean, we already kind of said like pick your weakest area. Pick your weakest area, study on it, or hire someone to make you better at it. Another thing would be good is like, you gotta use your, like, you shouldn't be the one doing every task. I've met chiropractors who are doing their own billing and doing their own everything. It's like, okay, if you're seeing a couple people a week, sure, but you got to get out of that. Like, you got to get your time. You got to delegate anything that you can away from like admin or whatever tasks you can to someone who can do it. And guess what? Eventually they'll probably do it better than you are anyways. Marketing, for example, we're not trained marketers, right? So, and you got to be using your time for like business building, practice building, patient care, the stuff that's going to add value to the practice and build it. I would say those are a couple things. One other, if we didn't talk much about like the coaching or consultant stuff, but if we're talking about marketing people or a practice coach, like that, I feel like it sped up my growth. And so if you're just kind of plateaued and not going anywhere, well, why not take a risk? Like maybe you lose out on a few grand or whatever, but you might have gained a ton in your practice. And that's just about finding the right fit and the right person to help you. It's like, I don't know if you're a football fan, Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone knows Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
So I like using his as an example. It's, think of when he came out, he was drafted by the Chiefs somewhere in like the teens, right? And he got to come and he had this awesome offensive coach, Andy Reid. and he had a good offensive line. He got to sit and watch a Pro Bowl quarterback for a year, Alex Smith. And they're known for having good management, good ownership, good everything. So he got to just come into this great situation and good fit. And we think of him as like the best player in football. And maybe he'll become the greatest of all time. Who knows? Whereas let's say that year he was drafted first. I don't know. Maybe it was the New York Jets. Terrible line. No one else good on offense. Probably a bad coach. Probably, just not known for being good organization. And he was there. Well, how would we talk about him today? We'd probably be able to tell he has an awesome arm and that he's good, but probably wouldn't be even close to what he's done with all the, Super Bowls, wins and losses. So, every consultant, every coach isn't going to be right for you. But if you find that one that is, that can really like propel you faster and just kind of like fast forward your growth. And you may have an obstacle. I have people that been in practice as long as I have, still really struggling to make it. Like I was my first several years, right? And it's like they never had that jet fuel to speed up the growth. And, you may be able to get past those obstacles in weeks versus years or never. So that's why I'm a big believer in that, and I still do to this day.
100%. I was telling you before we started recording this is that I have an advisor that's actually even invested into the business because I believe in it so much. There's a great quote by Naval Ravikant, and he says, "An expert is somebody that has made all the mistakes that you can make in a very narrow field." In other words, is like, that's what you're getting when you're getting a coach and a consultant, is you're getting somebody that has already made all the mistakes, and they're going to help you hopefully avoid most, if not all of those. Why would you not do that?
Yeah. Very true. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. What's your plug? Where can people find you?
You can find us Browning Family Chiropractic and Wellness. That's our website in Kyle, Texas. On Facebook as well. We're also Instagram, TikTok under Chiropractor Kyle TX.